Hi, I'm Greg Dell here with attorney Cesar Gavidia, and we are going to talk about the field interview requests that commonly come from multiple long-term disability insurance companies. Now, the field interview request is when the insurance company says, we want to send someone to your home to meet with you to discuss your claim. So in this short video, I want to discuss some of the issues around first of all, does a person have to do the field interview? What should they expect at the field interview? And why is the disability company requesting this field interview? So let's start with the first thing out of the box, because people are probably wondering, hey, the company called me. Do I even have to meet with them to engage in this field interview?
Yeah. And Greg, it all, as most things, comes down to the policy and the obligations and requirements that you have to comply with under the terms of that policy. So most policies don't require that you have to participate in the field interview process under their proof of loss requirements, but some policies do. So it's really important to go to your policy to review those proof of loss requirements carefully to determine if you first have to participate in that field interview one-on-one with the person, or is it sufficient just to give the insurance company the information they're seeking through some other means.
Right, okay. So when we get retained on these matters, because we're helping people to do the field interviews, the first thing I look to see is, do we even have to do it?
Right.
And assuming you don't have to do it, then you got to weigh the pros and cons of meeting with them versus not meeting with them. And there's many companies who just have a protocol, who just say every 2 years we're going to send someone out to meet with you, and that's just the way that particular company handles the claim. So you don't need to freak out or go crazy just because they called for one. But there are certain companies that if they're calling you for one, it's not good.
Right. Yeah, and the reason for that is they may have just conducted a week of surveillance on you, and then what they're going to do is once they get into your home and they sit you down and they go through this line of questioning, making you feel comfortable with them and that they're not there to harm you or your benefits, then they pop open the laptop and say, oh, can you explain what you're doing here? And why were you able to do this? And why didn't you report it to the insurance company? And you got your back to the wall and you're just spouting off things, and the next thing you know, the insurance company may find a reason to deny your claim or terminate your benefits.
So what I would say is, no matter what, I would never, if it was my family member who had a claim, I would never undergo a field interview without representation from an attorney, or I would at least at a minimum never be prepped. I would definitely want to be prepped by someone who could tell you everything that you should expect at this field interview, as opposed to just going into it, because you can't just accept that they're coming because they care about you.
Right.
And they're looking out for you. They want to make sure your claim's going to stay the way it should be. That's not their intent.
And what you said is true in most cases. In many cases, I should say, the field interview process is a benign process. I mean, they're there to get an update, to go through, maybe some questions with you, some recent medical treatment that you've had, or, maybe update on who your doctors are and when you've seen them and all of that. But it's like preparing for a hurricane. You don't know if that hurricane's going to hit and destroy your house or do whatever, but you go through the preparations of ensuring that you're not going to suffer that much damage. And the same thing needs to be done with these field interviews. You need to prepare yourself so you don't potentially cause that much damage to your claim.
Now, there's a couple different scenarios that you see. Like, take for example, company like MetLife. Like, now they're employing some full-time field interviewers, or whatever they call them, who work for MetLife and go out and do the interviews. Hartford has some full-time employees that do that as well. But for example, you could find with Unum, they may hire a third-party company to come do the field interview. They don't know anything about your claim for the most part, except for maybe one sheet of paper that they were sent from the disability company. So there's a lot of nonsense that can go on at this interview, because they hired some third-party company who's going to come, who's going to talk to you for 2 hours, asking you 90% of the information that's really inappropriate for them to ask, because you've already provided to the disability company. So that's a scenario that we try to cut out as well, is to make these meetings go as quick as possible so that you don't have to sit there and start talking more than you have to.
Right.
At these interviews, what should a person expect?
Well, first, they're going to, depending on where it occurs, because it's always important, people ask, should I let them in my home? Where should I do this?
Right. I'd say absolutely not.
I say absolutely not, too. I mean, if you can find some neutral location to do it, there's corporate places that rent off office spaces and things like that. It's better to do it there. Why? Because they're going to come in to your home. They're going to look around. They're going to see, oh, do you live in a 1-story or a 2-story? Oh, how do you get up those stairs? Let me see what you've done around your home to accommodate your claimed disability. Oh, can you run up and get your medications for me real quick? I'd just like to take a look at them. They take a look at the bottle. They see that maybe you haven't filled it in a while, or maybe half the medication isn't gone, or something like that. So they start digging up reasons to potentially deny your claim, start looking and scrutinizing everything. So it's important not to have that done in your home. The second thing is they're going to go through a line of questioning with you, depending on what's happened through the claim process up to that point. If they've done surveillance, they may start questioning you about different activities you can do and can't do, and restrictions and limitations that you've claimed, and then they try to impeach you or try to essentially challenge your credibility based on information you've given them in the past. And they may go through just your claims history and your medical treatment and your doctors and those types of things.
Right, and absolutely they're going to run your social media profile before they arrive. I mean, hands down a given, they're going to look you up and down on the internet trying to find any single thing they can about you, and then they're going to come and likely ask you about it. And they're going to ask you a lot about your activities of what you're doing, and you should assume that before you meet with them and after you meet with them, that they're going to run video surveillance on you for 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after. And that's probably one of the biggest ways that they try to really get you, is to try to get you to say something that then is inconsistent with the observed activities that they see on video. Right. Another point that I like to do a lot in these field interviews, and it really depends on the situation, is do I want to record them? Meaning, do I want to videotape them? Do I want to audio record them? Do I want to have a court reporter present? Those are 3 scenarios. They do add some cost to the claim, but then there's no inconsistencies, because you can meet with this field interviewer. They're going to go back and draft a report, we know, send it to the company. Well, what if they write down, and we've seen this many times, things that are not what you said? And then the company's going to rely on that. And then what do you have to combat that? So that's a big problem. So one of the tips that I would say, if you're not going to record, and sometimes we don't record because it's just to decide who it is and what the facts are of the particular case, is to ask for a written confirmation of the interview. And by that, when this person does a report, or if they write it right there, you want to see everything that's being written down and then sent back to the company so that you can sign off and say, yes, I said A, B, C, D, and E. Then there's no issues. But very often the companies won't give you that, and that's a problem if they're not willing to give you that confirmation. So if you have been called for a field interview by any of the companies, we encourage you to call us right away. We'll let you know immediately how we could assist you with this, no matter where you live in the country. Any of our lawyers are available to help you, and we always offer a free consultation. We look forward to speaking with you shortly.